So welcome to the rather cosy confines of this really fabulous little Lotus Elan 26R. If you think about definitive iconic sports cars of the 1960s, and particularly sports cars that enjoyed success in motorsport, then of course you'd reel off E-Types and Cobras and maybe the odd Ferrari and Aston, but right in amongst them, in the thick of it, was the Elan 26R. And from the moment you get in the car, you can see why. It's so urgent and agile and kind of packed with enthusiasm. You just can't help but get drawn into the whole experience. Of course, being a Lotus, there's very little to it. I think the homologated weight for a 26R was 580 kilos. It's powered by the familiar 1600cc or just under Lotus twin cam engine. In today's spec, with a bit of development like all historic cars, race cars do, it's got around 180 horsepower. So you don't need to be a brilliant mathematician to work out that's quite a formidable power to weight ratio. The car itself is very, very simple. 4-speed gearbox, disc brakes all round, steel backbone chassis with a little eggshell of a fiberglass body wrapped around it. But being a Lotus, it just extracts brilliance out of quite ordinary ingredients. But the bit I enjoy the most about racing this car is chasing Cobras and chasing E-Types. It's got the nickname the Mongoose because it likes eating snakes, and that's really what this car is great at. It's a proper David amongst the Goliaths. How do you get the best from it? How do you drive it? Well, by ordinary standards of most road cars, actually, it's a very quick little car, but it relies on momentum and maximising its advantages. So that's braking really late, carrying as much corner speed as you possibly can, and just maintaining every scrap of precious momentum you can gather. If you imagine racing this car against a Shelby Cobra or a semi-lightweight E-Type, you can imagine they go like stink down the straights. And we're really outgunned in that respect. But as soon as you get to the braking areas, the Elan just steals car lengths and car lengths and car lengths from them, and then grabs a few more through the corners. It's a totally addictive little car to race. It's a little terrier of a car, actually. If it was a dog, it would definitely bite the seat of the postman's trousers out. Because it's light and because it's relatively short wheelbase, it takes a certain knack to really get the best from it. It's quite a fine line to tread with a 26R. If you drive it with insufficient commitment, it doesn't really do what you want it to do. It turns in, but then it'll push wide. If you're hesitant on the throttle as you turn in, it will want to oversteer, and you kind of feel a little bit lost with it to start with because the controls are quite light. It has plenty of grip and it loves to change direction, but the line you need to tread is one where you can just rotate the car enough to overcome a little bit of understeer and just induce some neutrality and maybe a little bit of oversteer, and then you can do as much of the steering with the throttle as you do with the steering wheel. It's such a great feeling when you actually start to commit. It's a totally different animal when you really give it some. It seems to key into the road so much more when it really comes alive, your inputs have to be quick, and they have to be decisive, and they need to be precise. It's very easy to get in the car and be really busy with your hands, but because the Elan is so responsive, you can confuse yourself because you don't know what the car is doing and what you're making it do. You can induce it into all kinds of things, good and bad. So you need calm hands. Quick hands, but calm hands. But once you understand what it's telling you, it is just your best friend. You can place it with such accuracy and do things on the way into the corner, in the middle of the corner, and on the way out, just through subtle, small inputs on the throttle. Just a slight variance in throttle pressure rather than coming right out of the throttle is enough to take it from a little bit of understeer to just enough oversteer that you can start to straighten the car out early and maximise the naturally good traction that the car has. Braking is quite tricky. They move around a little bit under braking. So again, the temptation is to saw at the wheel and correct, but you actually just agitate it into more distraction. Through these fast corners, you just blend in and out of the throttle, just to encourage it to change direction. You know when you get it right in this car, you feel it, you hear it, you sense it through the additional speed you've carried. And above all, you tend to notice it in your steering inputs because they're smaller. You're not using as much lock because your right foot is doing as much of the steering and just balancing the car. There you can feel it just moving around a little bit. You can do so much with this car. From the moment you come off the brakes to the moment you pick up the throttle, that's when it tells you if you've got it right or not, that small window. And from that point on, it dictates the other inputs you have to make. If you've backed off and turned in too abruptly, you're dealing with oversteer on the way in. If you haven't teased it to rotate on the way in, then you'll deal with some mid-corner understeer. There you go, when you back off, it will rotate on you. It's so much fun to drive. I can't tell you how much I love racing this little car. The thing you really need to do with this car is to listen to what it's telling you, because it's such a communicative little car that even when you've found its limitations, you can use those to its advantage if you adapt your driving. So for instance, big braking areas, it's quite easy to grab a brake but you can drive it to a limit and over it, almost backing it in like a MotoGP rider or something. Of course, the temptation then is because you know you can overdrive the car. You naturally end up doing so, and then because the Elan is actually it's a precision tool, you lose time. The harder you drive it beyond a certain point, the slower you go. But if you can just find that sweet spot, it is an absolutely remarkable little car. The way it just sits down at the rear, you can feel the front wheel just come up in the air from inside the car, and you know at that point the little car is working as hard as it possibly can. And when it's doing that, you know you can have a good go with a Cobra. And that is what this little car lives for. I love this little car.